Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's special stream. Today, we're going to be going over some of the finer details of our new indicator package on the Multicharts Net 64 platform. Cat with Charts has put a lot of effort into making this new suite, which is far more powerful than the version we have currently released on TradingView. I do recommend sticking through this entire live stream to learn a bit more about the Multicharts platform and how you can use our new tools to have even more power in your trading. All right, Kat, why don't you launch us into this beautiful explanation of our new indicator suite?
First things first, I'm just going to tell you to set the visual order so that the bars are on top. And I need to figure out what ticker you're actually on.
BTC USD. What about the bars, Kat?
BTC USD on which
USDT
exchange?
on Poloniex. We are on the live updating chart on the 1 minute.
Okay.
And we can actually pop over to a higher time frame as well.
Okay. I think I'd suggest also setting. Yeah, you got the background at black now. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, the blue is a bit harsh.
Yeah, so just an introduction to multicharts.net for everybody who's new to this, because we're coming from a community mostly trading view based. Multicharts is a higher end software aimed at professionals, somewhere between what retail traders actually normally use and a Bloomberg terminal. But somewhere in between there price wise. It's a software that has a lot of features for trading conventional markets that if you trade conventional markets, you'll recognize instantly when you actually see the order system why you'd want to use this. And important for us in particular, it has the ability to use, or it's based on a full modern object-oriented programming language, which means we can do pretty much anything as long as a computer can reasonably run it. Whereas with PineScript, we're limited to whatever, we're limited to PineScript's limitations, which are large to begin with, and by whatever processing power TradingView is willing to let you use on their servers, which is not that much. To be frank about it, if they ever ease up on some of those restrictions, there are things I could do to make ACAT more efficient just very easily without doing much. But until we get to that point, we've kind of hit a wall. When we originally launched on TradingView, we had a lot of big ideas, things that were less refined as far as the adaptive distribution tracking was concerned. We had just the overexpansion piece made, and over that next 6 months, we came up with the compression piece. We came up with ways to make it more efficient and smush them all together into one indicator. And eventually I was able to stitch together with, for the deluxe package, higher resolution version using 4 different indicator instances. But at that point, when you take 4 different indicator instances and also a fair amount of hand wringing just to get that to play nicely with each other, I'd sort of reached the limit of what I could actually do to improve ACAT in TradingView. So it was at that point that I started really looking into where else I could go to find more power. We've had various requests since we launched for us to move to other platforms. This is one of the ones that's been suggested. And upon looking at different possibilities, this one was very appealing for several reasons. One is that it does have just a modern object-oriented software language without any particular weird oddities. Two is that once you start playing with it, it's just got all of the features. It's got it's like having 3 commas for traditional markets.
Yeah,
The kind of customizability for the orders. It's got a bunch of optimization tools built in for strategy testing. Ninja Trader's got something similar, but this has more features generally.
Like, let's say you took a long on Poloniex and you said, all right, if we go below the 1.25 standard deviation of the CLCP tonight while I go to bed, I'll stop out of the trade. You can do that automatically through Multicharts to that exchange. Now, it is important.
I'm not sure they actually have live trading just rather than the data feed on Poloniex.
Oh, really? Goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it for a lot of the major markets. However, a lot of the manually imported cryptocurrency data we have done via ASCII mapping. Currently, it is just the advanced charting.
Yeah. So if you trade Forex, there's brokers that Oanda is both a data provider and I believe you can use it to place trades on Oanda. If you do traditional markets, there are several regular brokerages for stocks, and in particular, AMP Futures offers this software for free with an account, with just the only difference being that it's locked to their data feed. They happen to be just about the cheapest place to trade futures, and they only require $100 minimum to have an account that runs and gets live data. So you can get this pretty cheap to try it out with a version that won't expire. But that what does limit you to futures data. The regular version of Multichart, 30-day. The full license key is about twice as expensive monthly as TradingView, or lifetime licenses have holiday pricing on that at this exact moment until January 6th. So especially if you trade traditional markets in addition to cryptocurrency and Forex, where our focus is, I would encourage you to look seriously into that, because both for our indicators and just for anything else you might do, this is a software worth considering. And I think just the flexibility of orders you can put in, not to mention the amount of algo trading tools. I suspect that if you're trading a mid-sized account of any sort, those will save you money and not a very large number of trades.
Beautiful, Cat. Are you ready to go over some of these indicators that you've made for us?
Yeah, so for our initial release package, we focused on getting as close to feature parity with the TradingView version as possible. And then there are several things more that I can very easily stick into this initial release because it's substantially more powerful. Most notably, you'll notice that anytime DadShark opens up a chart with ACAT on it, it actually loads quickly. Now, you can test this and strain it if you go and do a large number of bars. That's far beyond what TradingView will allow you to do. With a pro subscription, most tickers, TradingView will show you a little more than 10,000 bars. A free account is limited to 5,000 bars usually. indexes will sometimes go much further back than that, but in a head-to-head comparison of just what the limitation of trading you quickly on almost any ticker, you bring in a lot more data, it'll load much quicker than TradingView, though it may have a few seconds lag there. But to say that it is an order of magnitude more efficient is actually an understatement, because it's also doing it at single period resolution, which all the way up to 2000 period by default, and you can just set that higher if you'd like, without breaking it. Whereas the high-res version is stitched together against 4 indicators in TradingView, and it will load slowly to do that. So I really encourage people to give this a real try with the trial. If you're inclined to trade futures, consider the AMP version so that you can just get this in your hands and try it out, because it's a quality of life change that does, if nothing else. But it also lets you look at a lot more charts a lot quicker.
Oh yeah, and Multicharts does have a 30-day free trial as well. If you want to test these on the cryptocurrency charts with the ASCII mapped files as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to that later in this after we indicators, but we've put together just the entire data dump from Binance and BitMEX, and then Python scripts to update them with their API calls. And we're just going to put that as a zip file, 3 gigabytes large, compressed, and then uncompresses to like 30 gigabytes. But we'll just make that available for anyone who wants to try it freely, generally. And you could get this yourself if you were to write and modify a script and wait a week. But if you just download it from my Google Drive, it'll take you much less time than that.
Yeah, we compressed it down from 40 gigabytes. So if you want all the information on Binance and BitMEX down to the 1 minute chart that was ever on the platform, it's the fastest way to do it.
All right. So let's just and look over the different indicators one by one. So ACAT will be very familiar to if you've looked at it on TradingView, and you won't notice that much difference from out of the box, other than the lines are much smoother around the compression stuff because it's single period resolution. You've noticed, I assume by now, that yellow line that isn't on the TradingView version.
You still there, Cap? You cut out.
All right. I can hear you now.
Excellent.
Yeah. So if you've looked at ACAT on TradingView, you'll notice this will look very familiar to you. You'll notice immediately that there's a set of yellow lines that aren't on the TradingView version, and those are set to be 1/10 TLCP. I would suggest that those are pretty useful as a secondary measure in compression periods. It's also just sort of a demonstration that I can stick on any number of plots I want, and I won't get limited to a set number or freeze the thing like I would with TradingView.
Essentially, if you're looking for a swing high or a swing low inside of a compression range, these new yellow bands are the way to go.
Yeah. For the same reason, the 1/10 LOXP is often useful. If you're not getting some sort of higher time frame move that's going to blow past everything, the 1/10th period seems to be a very good indication of about how far it will go. And sometimes it's just outright phenomenal where places wick. Would not be a bad place to consider putting orders if on that strategy on some tickers. Is staring at the BitMEX 4-hour chart and noting that some of these wicks are like dead on that exact period.
It is more than impressive, Kat.
So, ACAT works largely as you'd expect it to. I think the one cool trick I would suggest going into the settings and messing with is just change the max period or the min period to anything you want.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah, that is overwhelmingly useful, right?
Yeah.
So usually with the regular ACAT, you're stuck between 14 and 200. Right now we're 14 and 2000 by default. And Kat, how much of a higher resolution on the periods are we seeing here in Multicharts compared to TradingView?
It's checking every single period.
Every single period? ACAT is multiple of 5s, right?
It depends on what the range is, and in TradingView, because there's not enough variables to do proper incremental calculations and blah, 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 blah. It gets spread further and further the further you go out because it matters less. But I don't have to make that compromise in multi-charts. It just works.
So this indicator here in multi-charts is up to 5 times the resolution at the moment. And the period range can be as large as you want, right?
Yeah, at some point it does start getting slower to calculate.
But it can do it, and it won't time out.
Yeah. It's just if make sure there's actually enough data loaded. So if I set 50,000 bars on this 1 minute chart, which will load pretty quickly, also something TradingView can't do.
All right, we're dropping down to 1 minute, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I load ACAT, and let's do a max period of 5,000.
Okay. And I have this loading back to 2018, so I'm going to change that a bit.
Now, this will actually take some time on 50,000 bars, but to say the least, you can't even do this calculation in TradingView. For actual trading, I would suggest probably going down to you probably want about twice as many bars as your max period, just to make sure that you haven't created an issue for yourself where you're missing earlier expansions, so you don't have enough look back for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And the additional 100 period look back that's needed by default.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh God, Kat, look at that compression range. Why am I not trading this right now? Why am I doing this stream? Come on. This is too clean, man.
I will make another point. If you back out, or if you look at the information line at the top of the chart, just read that line in the upper left corner. Upper left, the other left.
Ah, my other left. Very good. Currently, there's no longest overexpanded period. TLCP is 934. The fractional TLCP, so the 1/10, is 94. And the CLCP is 936. So
it can just read out in a way that TradingView should be able to, but because of the way TradingView does stuff, you can do it with labels now, and you couldn't even do that 6 months ago. It's really nice to have something that just works.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And if you want, you can even load up variations of any of those values as just regular Bollinger Bands. Like,
Yeah,
so let's say you need
so
a custom standard deviation. One, you can change it in the settings of the indicator, or two, you could just load up a Bollinger Band or Bollinger Band Meow Mix to add those periods in manually yourself.
you should set the visual order so the bar is on top.
Oh, yes.
So there is one annoying limitation with the way Multicharts plots things. It doesn't have break line plots, and I can do a lot to hide that visually as the actual data series is on top of the indicator, and I could draw it differently with custom drawings, but then you lose the ability to just click anywhere. What you should do, just click anywhere and show that, and just look at all the active variables at any given time. If I do a custom drawing, you lose that ability, which is uh, so this is sort of the best solution I've best compromise. Um, but otherwise, it just has all the data, and all you have to do is just click around, and it's just all there. You don't need to go out of your way to do much of anything. Now, I do have a version of the period tracker uh, for this.
And that is a segue into which version would you like me to load up, Kat?
The RC one is going to be the release candidate one version.
We're loading that up now. I'm going to refill my glass of water. Kat, you can continue talking about that. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so because we have put ourselves on a very large look back, this will actually take him a little bit of time to load up. But the bottom line is that you can just do things, and it's wonderful. And it's helpful, really, because it gives you the ability to just look at data sets from several different. I generally suggest using ACAT on multiple time frames at the same time, and you can do that in a trading view window. The problem is they all sort of get limited by the amount of bandwidth that TradingView is willing to give you per instance of a browser window. And because of that, you'll often have one or more ACATs timeout if you do multiple time frames at the same time. Generally will work fine on a single chart, but just the convenience. It's just such a relief to actually have work and not time out ever.
Yeah, having a less finicky software in trading is kind of essential if you need constant accuracy and minute to minute updates. So, yeah, with period tracker, you can just click on this as well. I'm sure he said this, but it will lisp the locks wherever you click, or any of the values wherever you click. So, it's beautiful.
Okay, so let's go into BB Meowmix and show the version of that.
Cool, and we are going to make this a little bit less crowded by...
If you just click the ACAT name in the status bar at the top.
It's a lot of lines. Yeah, it's at the very top. We're good. Beautiful. And Kat, what are the defaulted periods on this bad boy?
So it's the same defaults as on BB Meowmix and TradingView. So 5200. At the moment, this version doesn't have all of the drop-down menu defaults. One limitation of multi-charts is make a nice menu. So to do that, I would kind of have to set it up as defaults 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and document it elsewhere. This is a little bit inconvenient. Depending on how many people actually request that feature, I can prioritize it higher. But I have focused so far on just getting it parity with the key things that BBMeowMix does in TradingView, which is offer a lot of different types of moving averages with the appropriate standard deviations.
So, Kat, can I just type in any moving average I want into MA type and it will work? Because I just typed in ZLEMA and that works. EMA works.
I think the list is about 15 long of what it currently supports. So probably anything you can think of off the top of your head.
That's really nice. And you don't have to do any extra coding. It just imports whatever thing I want into Bollinger Band Meowmix.
Yeah, basically.
That's pretty ridiculous. Because I really like using the 3.2 of the ZLEMA to catch swing high, swing low re-entries on this. And it is actually super clean.
And I know a couple of our users are particular fans of whole moving average HMA. So obviously it supports that as one of the common ones to support. And I should say that if you just want to use it as a multiple moving average indicator, you can just turn off the bands.
Oh, goodness. And Kat, I'm able to change the MA type on ACAT and WavePM as well, right?
Not at the moment on WavePM. I'm going to probably have that added pretty soon. With WavePM, it doesn't matter that much because of just the mechanics of WavePM for 3D WavePM. Mm-hmm. For at least any merit you'd actually want to use. ECAT is substantially more complicated for several reasons. You really need something that incrementally calculates both the mean and the particular standard deviation type for it to be practical. Otherwise, it'll just take too long. And there's a couple you can do that with. But I've also just not convinced myself so far that there's another good moving average to use beyond SMA, which makes some sense based on the fact that this is all derived from a normal distribution logic. I haven't done enough experimentation with VWMA yet, and I'm going to do that and do some experimentation with that probably in the next month. That one, I think, might realistically have some influence depending on the ticker. But that requires a substantially larger intervention mechanics of coding ACAT.
Very nice.
The particular version I put in your hand today for WavePM is limited to SMA, but it should be a relatively easy add, and I may release with it. If not, it'll be something we add within the first month.
Sure, and as with WavePM, simple moving averages by far the most useful at this current time. I'm sure we could find other uses for more obscure moving averages, but tried and true.
So this is a good point to show something new. I would encourage you to load up both WavePM and the WaveCat indicator.
Okay. WaveCat version 1. Let's do it. And let's Bit much happening here.
So I have not told Dad Shark in advance what exactly Wavecat does. I'm trying to play the game of can he figure I just have to tell him.
All right.
But it is pretty cool. To some extent, it'll probably be it's more useful for certain indicators in different ways in different situations. The difference between them will get more obvious when we do the 3D versions, but what's probably most useful actually is the regular Wave PM.
I'm seeing far less jitter than usual based on the comparison, and it has nothing to do with your look back. Ooh, is it your... Does the directional weighting... You changed the directional weighting timing, I think.
I did nothing of the sort. I did something clever that required more computational power. So what I'd point you to is that in almost every instance, this is better smoothed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is better smoothed without any noticeable lag. And this is because I can do something pretty clever because this isn't a time-based smoothing. It's a period-based smoothing.
So
What I've done is done a symmetrical average of the surrounding periods rather than just the individual period. Because this doesn't have a large time component and it's a couple derivatives, as a derivative or two derivatives deep already, there's essentially no lag or any real cost to do this.
Which is a very rare thing in the world of trading, to be able to make that kind of adjustment without introducing any lag. I'm pretty impressed.
Where that's really nice is particularly for the regular Wave PM application where it's helpful, where we're trying to visualize not just what the highest period is with limited information from the color from a 3D Wave PM, but where you're trying to get a grasp of the relative state to each other on 2 dimensions. Because the problem you run into PM is, especially on a bar that hasn't closed yet, is there is that jitter aspect. And when you have it better smoothed like this, a cross is generally much clearer and much more likely to be a clear and sustained cross.
Okay, so with the newer version of Wavecat, you are less likely to get false signals in live scenarios.
Yeah, that would be the main reason to do this.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, so at the moment I've got these still coded as 2 separate indicators. I'm going to try in time for release consolidate them to just one indicator with the ability to turn on or off the Wavecat smoothing.
Oh, clever. Good.
But this is a feature I'm pretty proud of. I might be able to bring it to regular Wave PM in TradingView, but there's no way it'll run on anything that's looking at more than a few periods and a Pine script. As for using it on ACAT in particular to pick largest over expanded period, my experience looking at them side by side is that it's pretty close, and it's not obvious you'd want to use one or the other. Do a little bit better in different situations, but it's pretty close overall. It's not a large change, really. it's a large change to help us visually, and
Yeah.
potentially for other things I could do down the line. The fact that it's smoothed makes it easier algorithmically to be sure that something's actually shifting, especially on longer lookbacks.
Ooh. Thank you for saying that. I want to try that. Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to quadruple the look back just to see what happens on both of them. Hold on. So I'm on the 1 hour chart. By quadrupling the look back, we're essentially looking at the 4 hour chart, but with 4 times the resolution.
Well, here the resolution is going to be, pretty well. Okay, so yes, and for regular Wave PM and Wave Cat, there's not a large cost to doing this time wise, even in TradingView. Where this becomes prohibitive to do is when you start building massively parallel on top of that. For TradingView, that becomes prohibitive probably as early as the 3D Wave PM step.
Mm-hmm.
For ACAT, it's nightmarish to try to do that much in TradingView past time. Maybe 200 period, 300, 400 period, you might be able to get to, but you definitely can't do that for high periods in TradingView. Here, you can definitely do it up to a point. You saw roughly how long it took to calculate 5,000 period. Well, you do the 1 minute chart, 6,000 look back, which is an hour. It will calculate that. It will be a bit slow to do so. You could theoretically pull that off. I don't know that I'd go further than that. And higher than that, you sort of need a multi-time frame solution, which I do actually have code for. It's one of the things I've been working on. So try to take this to the next order of complexity. It won't be released in this at first in this particular instance. It's not immediately useful time frame unless you actually are trying to integrate them into a signal at the same time on the same chart. So at this stage, I'd say people are probably better off just loading up the different charts and looking at indicator instance separately. Because you get information from the side-by-side anyway, and just the mechanics of how Multicharts does calculations. It puts every indicator instant. It does each chart window is a single thread, so you start to bog it down quite a bit if you don't do it with some pretty. You start going pretty deep into global variable whatnot, which stuff you say about multicharts.net that doesn't even exist for other applications. In the idea that you can basically do anything you run it just may not have any code to anybody's published previously, so you have to figure it out yourself.
Okay. Hey, Kat. Oh, I had a really good question for you, but then I just looked at the comment and someone wants me to look at a chart. What was I going to say? Oh, so the thing you were saying about the multiple threads, on that logic, and I'm just throwing this out here as a guess, you're saying if I were to open the same chart in 4 different workspaces and loaded an indicator, a different indicator on each chart in each different workspace, it should, in theory, load up as in the same amount of time as, or 4 times faster than if I were to load all those indicators on the same chart.
Yes, and it'll load a whole heck of a lot faster than it would. And it will actually load without timing out.
Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, if you're doing heavy computational work on one chart where you have multiple versions of Wave PM, it's better to split them into either multiple charts or multiple workspaces. Got it.
Yeah, and especially if you've got a lot of screen real estate, you can load this up and get quite a bit of eye candy.
Ooh, I'm very happy with the amount of new real estate I have here. I should have gotten the second monitor,
Yeah,
Cat. God damn.
yeah, but that's particularly helpful when you want to compare like 4 or 6 time frames against each other. My default way of looking at a chart at this point is to do 6 time frames next to each other and cross check. If you want to look at a single chart with a whole lot of indicators to look at something in detail, I mean, the nice thing is that you can pull this off on multi-net without any lag. But multi-charts will let you put all of those charts anywhere you want. It will also, if you have multiple monitors, let you disconnect them from that desktop and start putting them on different desktops. And it will let you save that layout. And we'll remember what goes on what desktop later. Really, the only limitation is a certain amount of drawing instances that it'll actually let you do per instance of multi-charts. You can open multiple instances of multi-charts if you have the RAM for it. But suffice it to say, way past what what TradingView will let you do.
It's beautiful. All right, what's next? What indicator?
Let's pull up 3D Wave PM and 3D WaveCat. You might want to do one in one chart and one in the other at the same time.
Yep, just set it
This
up, my
will.
man. Let's see.
If you do this with the full possible resolution, it'll lag your screen quite a bit.
Well,
It'll load quickly, but it's actually just a lot of individual lines of graphics.
yeah, I was skeptical for a second, but yeah, even my computer is taxed. All right, so what should I do with this, my man?
Well, I bring up the same. I bring up 3D WaveCat and do the side by side comparison.
Okay, but I mean to make this less laggy initially. What settings do I change to enable faster rendering speed?
Well, mostly you want less period data, and by default, 3D Wave PM will give you 14 to 2000 period high resolution, single period resolution.
Is there a way
Which is to say
decrease that?
significantly more than you can. You can, however, use any of the different presets we have from TradingView.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, to drop the resolution.
The other thing you can do is drop it at like 14600 single period resolution.
Also, Kat, this is defaulting to. How do I switch this to a logarithmic scaling?
So it started on logarithmic scaling. Then you messed with it. It's a little. It will switch back and forth if you
change the setting.
Start changing the scale a lot, but
well, this is a product of me decreasing the quality of the indicator, so we're just going to switch it back.
Yeah, I would suggest using one of the high res versions because that it will it'll crush that.
Come on. Like, I just bit myself in the butt for trying to make it do or follow TradingView's limitations. So it's better when you let it be its own beast. Gotcha. And what am I loading up on this side, Cat?
Load up WaveCat and just use the same range. 3D WaveCat.
3D WaveCat. WaveCat 3D version 1.0. 16 to 600. Beautiful.
So you don't have the same scale or the same place. You gotta get your charts to the same
Same time
time.
frame.
If you just click all the way at the end of the chart, assuming they're on the same time frame, it'll if you have the boxes ticked along the top toolbar for the crossbar, it will update all the charts to the same spot when you click on them.
Okay. Well, I did it manually. I'm sorry. Well, we made it. What we looking at, Cap?
So you should get the scale the same on the Wave PM 3D Wave PM so that it will actually be comparable. It'll be easier with the log chart.
You just want me to
Yeah.
double click it? Okay.
Yeah, and reset it. So this very cleanly illustrates the difference between the Wave PM by itself and with the Wave Cat smoothing.
Oh. Yeah, I like that a lot more. Because your directional weighting is more cohesive.
This has been sort of a hobby horse of mine for a while to find a sort of integration or smoothing to clean this up a little bit, because the problem you get with individual periods of Wave PM is that there's a bunch of these very localized boundaries that don't really mean anything. They're just like a little bit here or there over a threshold, so the color changes. And the smoothing aspect cleans up these boundaries and eliminates a lot of them.
So my first impression of the new WaveCat of changing the timing of your compression or of the registered compression or expansion was correct in a derivative sense, because that is the end result it seems we were aiming for with the 3D version. Huh. And my God, Cat, it does make a significant difference for legibility. I'm curious, do you have any plans of porting this smoothing to regular ACAT? Because I'm sure CLCP ranges would be much clearer.
So I did mention that earlier that result-wise, it's pretty close, and 6 and 1/2 dozen the other, whether it actually does much for ACAT. And you'll notice that the CLCP range will be pretty similar regardless, based on where the exact compression boundary actually is, because that's a pretty smooth curve regardless.
Right.
Because that boundary is not particularly it's more that this opens up some possibilities to recognize things that were less smooth before, that I haven't previously even considered looking at. So that's more of I need to theory craft and then try and build stuff over the next year. But at the moment, the smoothing's very nice, just to visually identify things.
Sure. When you put this much information on a chart, it's best that it's legible as possible.
Now, since we're on the topic of visually identifying things, it's a good time to compare CCI with WavePM versus CCI with WaveCat. Because if you can think of an example where there's noise and boundaries are indistinct, 14 period WavePM certainly fits that bill. So I did to a little fanfare put in the feature in our regular Wave PM with CCI with Wave PM offering to use the 3D Wave PM coloring rather than just block colors. I have that as the default way to do it in this version. Actually, I think I think the version I gave you, I don't even actually have
The option to change.
the option to change the coloring. I put that back in. It's
But I can manually change it this
yeah.
way, right? Just the single CCI
Yeah.
length one.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so now it's just on the 200 period. That is visually concise.
Yeah. And here, it's just what's really helpful is you get much smoother transitions in most cases.
And I'm going to load up a regular CCI just to compare, yeah?
Well, I mean, the CCI part isn't what's changing. It's the Wave PM coloring part.
Sure. I got you. You got me a little excited there if you created a smooth CCI.
Yeah, so that's math, and I could take a look at it. I would have my doubts that it's mathematically valid to smooth that, but or it wouldn't introduce lag because
I mean, it's the pivot that Wave PM is a derivative from, so it wouldn't be all that.
But what I would highlight to which time frame are you on right now?
1 hour.
Okay. Yeah. So I would point out to you, look at where color changes happen for any overexpansion and any consolidation after overexpansion on WaveCat versus Wave PM on 14 period.
WaveCat happens far sooner.
It'll actually be helpful here if you put it on the vertical.
On the same chart?
Yeah.
Cool. CCI. CCI Wave PM. Version 1. Okay. Oh, and I can actually full screen it without deleting the window. Beautiful.
Yeah, so as far as visual use, this is perhaps what has me most excited. Look at expansions. Which one tends to change color first to red? Look at the compressionary period afterwards. Which one starts turning to the darker red and saying that it started to turn over first?
I'm going to smack this with the 50 period just so I get a little bit less of a reactive period. Is that cool?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so the CCI WaveCat does see that change sooner on the overexpansion.
Yeah. And it's the thing that the fact that it catches it sooner, usually by a bar or two, usually by 1 bar, which is frankly a godsend by itself. That there's a transition happening, both for expansion and for the noticing when it's starting to cool off.
You've essentially
the
indicator.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps one of the most exciting aspects of the smoothing.
I'm pretty interested in how you managed that without changing look back. It's very interesting.
I mean, the main thing is that it's integrated information from slightly lower periods, right? Mm-hmm. And the lower periods are changing faster than the higher periods in in response to those cases, especially when you're talking only like 14 period. So it makes some sense that it would be a little more reactive, but because it's a symmetrical smoothing, it also still has a good smoothing aspect.
Okay. I am curious about playing with the 50 band. I can turn off the 200, right?
Yeah.
With a single click, or do I have to go through every single band?
Every single band.
Okay, never mind. We're just going to have both of them. So, pink is the 50. So, in this example of this mean inversion condition here, let's zoom in on this. All right. So this is interesting. Oh my God, Kat, have you made a? No, it wouldn't. So registering the overexpansion sooner is very useful. Although, even though this here ends up activating a mean inversion condition by re-entering its 1.25 standard deviation, it's already reading below the 0.4 value on its relative wave PM period.
That makes intuitive sense when you consider the compression, since it's reverting in the same direction and not that long of a difference of period.
Right, because it's getting that information from lower time frames, which have compressed faster.
Well, it's not just that; it's the fact that it went up and then it went down about 14 bars.
Okay. I see. It's my first time seeing this. It's very fun. Oh. Just going to make a Christmas reference about... Never mind. We're done. I'm not making any Christmas references. It's just a very nice indicator, and I'm very happy.
So I did include a couple other things. They're a little more, they're a little less new and exciting and more utilitarian. I've included just a volume on the chart indicator because there isn't such a thing by default built into multi-charts. They have a lot of tools for volume profile, but just the default volume bars on chart that exists elsewhere on every TradingView chart by default, they don't have. And I think the reason they don't have that is because basically screwing around with the custom plotting tools rather than any particular default plot that they actually build in. So again, another win for being able to just do whatever the heck I want and just make it if I can figure out how. So I've got that included. And as a volume mail mix. And at some point, I'm probably going to try and significantly expand the various things I can do. Because, yeah, when you control your own data sets and you can have your own tick level data sets, you can start doing like having complicated volume profiles. Just make a distinction between up volume and down volume. So,
is it, with what you just told me, is it possible to make an on-balance volume on the 4-hour chart using true volume data from the 1-minute chart? Because that's super appealing.
So you would have to... The answer is yes, but... And the but is you'd have to set it as a 1-minute chart. And then look to actually derive the information, and then look at the 4 hour is a secondary chart on the same window. It's a little bit of a kludge. You could, in theory, do it. It's not going to be just drag and drop, but sort of. It may be something where it works best if you put a couple windows next to each other. I'd have to play around more. What I've actually been kicking around as an idea that I would, before on balance volume, would be true CCI, where instead of getting typical price from high-low average or high-low divided by 3, you just did the actual constitutive ticks. That's going to take some work to actually pull off, and it may be limited to just using a smaller unit rather than every tick, and maybe in practically the calculated tick level for everything. But in theory, I can do that, and I'm going to try and make that in the next few months.
Okay, that's very exciting. Tell me about these volume candles.
So these are just ordinary volume candles. But the fact that I have access to so much more volume data just by virtue of being in Multicharts means that one of the coming soon things in the next few months will be I guess a very customizable volume data set. One thing it does do that has always annoyed me about TradingView's default volume
Can I take a
is
guess?
that
Is it that all volume on that candle is attributed to the candle close?
no, that's completely different than
Okay.
what I was going to say. This is I look a little bit too. This is some inside baseball because I spent a lot of time looking at the ES futures chart where the tick sizes are relatively large, and on low time frame charts, you have a lot of bars that are just sideways and close at the same place they opened.
Mm-hmm.
And the way TradingView handles that is it defaults it to a green candle in their built-in volume profile.
Ah.
They don't have a plot for their built-in volume profile by default, and it's pain in the butt to code your own that works it. And you'd have to screw around and make your custom window, get it set up in a custom window, rather than just having it work. Here, I can just make that a gray bar, and it's trivial because I have control, and I don't need to make a new layout in TradingView every single time and customize an indicator size in a screwed up way every single time I want to do something that's not a default volume profile. So volume is a finicky beast, and it will probably mislead you if in the ways it's typically used on higher time frames. Except it's like a really big macro picture question. But when you have access to tick level data and upticks and downticks, the possibilities start getting more interesting. Not to mention the volume profile data, which TradingView not TradingView, Multicharts has a ton of tools for working with.
Can you take the volume data on the one tick chart and display it as net volume on a higher time frame?
Again, you have to have both data sets loaded on the window because it needs actually that to drive it from it. There's a way to do it. It's not as clean as just having it loaded on a chart. Okay. You can kind of make your own layout. The answer is, in theory, yes. but it's not as simple as you'd like it to be.
Yeah, I'm getting that, but it's one of the things I've dreamt about in trading forever. Because when you get a large wick to the upside, but it closes red and it shows all that as a negative volume, it's very misleading.
Yeah. So
See, like this
yeah,
candle
yeah, yeah,
right
for,
here.
yeah, yeah. For that, you need tick level data, and it's hard to get that for cryptocurrency. It's easy to get it for traditional markets. You may be able to get it for forex markets pretty easily.
So if I go down to the one tick chart here, and I'm getting volume candles down here, well,
I don't know. Maybe Polo actually does have it. I don't know if they separate down ticks and upticks though.
curious. Oh well, it's super theoretical and
Get
something we can talk about.
yeah, down ticks and upticks for those unfamiliar. It's a question of whether the a tick was at the bid or the ask price, so you know whether it was someone who, which side made paid the market order to move to make that trade.
Yeah, there's so much data that we kind of just ignore despite being technically available. Like you can watch the data stream by on the exchange, but actually being able to use it as a metric, I am interested in where that could go.
Yeah, so that'd probably so you can get that data very easily. For forex, I assume so. These days, personally, forex futures are actually cheaper to trade than uh, forex itself, um, because everything is cheaper to trade as futures. But yeah, the data is available for traditional market. Crypto, I do not have a script ready made or anywhere close to. I haven't even attempted to try to pull that in real time from an API.
So what if you
You
didn't do it
might,
from
yeah,
API? What if you did it with a Python script from a web browser?
that doesn't make any sense.
So the data streams by in the browser, and that's data on the web page.
That's not going to get you anything any faster than just pulling it via API.
Okay.
I would think, in theory, depending on the exchange and the details of the API, you can pull up ticks and down ticks from it. They won't keep much of an archive of it compared to minute data.
Sure. I imagine you'd have to store it yourself.
You have to store it yourself, and kind of the kicker is with traditional markets, your data provider will you have at least 10 days you can pull retroactively as convenient, often 30. A cryptocurrency, I would guess it's probably measured in less than a day when you can actually look back and get the tick level.
Yeah, you would need that constantly running then to pull it. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of thought. So, what you got next for me, Kat?
So the only particular indicator we haven't gone over is ACAT spread chart. That's a technical indicator in this case where it'll let you. Works with the way Multicharts wants to see two data streams to do a spread chart. You can't do that quite as easily as you can do it in TradingView, but you can do it if you load two different data sets onto the same chart.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I just got that error message.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
So what you need to do is go to Format Instruments.
Okay.
And add symbol. What do we want to compare BTC to?
USDT BTC.
It has to be a data set you actually have.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just.
Well, let's do ETH USDT, which should be the synthetic Ethereum BTC chart, just for the purposes of an example.
I did something wrong. So I type in ETH underscore USDT, look up, I click on it, I hit add, one instrument added, and now it's not showing up in format instrument.
Oh no, you have to go insert instruments. You go to the tool at the top.
Oh.
You want the not that. Okay. So to try adding ETH USDT. And I just inadvertently added the 1 minute version of it, which is useful at least to see how it does parallel data sets, but we kind of want for the.
I am.
We want the time frames.
So
yeah. So
did
you have to
right?
you have to format that data set to be the same time frame.
Okay. Okay. I see what
So
I did
now,
wrong.
and then the last step is that the synthetic version of ACAT for the spread chart will be in its own window.
How do I generate a new window, Cat?
So if you go to the indicators properties and set it to show on bottom and under properties.
Beautiful. Give that bad. Oh, did it load? It did load. Okay. Yeah, let's make this big guy a bit bigger, eh? All right. So what are we looking at here, Cat?
Well, we should have just made a synthetic ETH BTC chart.
Really?
Either that or we made the opposite chart.
I am not entirely sure what happened. What is supposed to be happening, Cat? Let's start there. Because it appears to be upside down.
It may be upside down. Which means I have to go into reverse an input, which I can do pretty easily. But I just wanted to show that this existed. It does actually look like it's just completely inversed, but otherwise correct.
Okay.
But this is not any different than ACAT itself. It just helpfully allows you to do spread charts in multicharts. And the reason why someone might find that particularly useful probably not for cryptocurrency or even forex because the inverse pairs are generally exist and are tradable. It's particularly useful when you want to do pairs trading of traditional markets. So pairs trading in stocks is really common, where you want to hedge out the underlying industry and market. So you'll take a stock that you're bullish on in that sector and buy it, and then sell it again and do the inverse trade and sell the same amount, same value worth of stock that you're bearish on in that sector. So as a way to play your bullish bias in one company, hedge out everything that's just happening in the sector itself. It's also relevant if you want to do something like bet on SPX versus NASDAQ, or where you would buy the futures on one, sell the other, which is a very cheap trade to do. But you have to do a synthetic pair trade. You need to have a spread chart.
TLDR, I can chart any cryptocurrency's performance against any other cryptocurrency.
Yes, though since it's cryptocurrency and all the pairs generally, it's probably less useful for cryptocurrency in particular.
Beautiful. Oh, that makes sense.
So that's the other big thing we wanted to go over is how we've managed to get Binance data and BitMEX data into.
Yeah, okay. So, Kat, what about that ACAT version you made that is the full spread of the indicators? And I know we just look at spread charts. That's not the right word. But multi-TF ACAT.
Not coming in the original in this version, so I'm not going to give it to you to show it. There are a couple issues doing it. It takes longer to load, but the practical issue is that you're still limited by the fact that you have to have the shorter time frame loaded to actually get the synthetic data in the first place. And you're limited in that the question has to be, why do you want to do that rather of the multiple windows side by side?
Convenience.
It's less convenient than you'd think. Because
how's that?
It's a lot less aesthetic than you think. It's the issue is you give yourself so many lines on a chart that it's hard to make heads and tails of it.
Sure.
And I'm not willing to say at this point that I have graphically presented it in such a way that I think it adds value. And yeah, if I get there, I'll release it. Frankly, the main reason I have it coded is because at some point I want to get it into a complicated bot strategy, which is sort of my great white whale. It turns out that doing stuff based on dynamic distributions and not just clean anything that can be easily derived down to one line or several lines cross here or there gets really nightmarish really quickly when you try to make it. But someday, and I do plan to make some tools and multi-charts for those who actually will use a broker for some purpose that you trade from, to try to help with doing automated entries and exits at particular lines. But that's a work in progress, and I want to make sure before I release anything like that, I'm really confident that it really does work.
Yeah, absolutely, Kat. It was visually dense, to put it mildly, so I can understand the vague apprehension at this current time and respect it. So let's talk about the importing Binance, shall we?
Yeah. So
and we should probably cut this section out to a separate video as well, because it should probably be uploaded as its own thing. So I'm going to start a recording here so we can go over the actual import function, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty. Tell me what to do, Kat.
Okay. I think first you should open up Quote Man for multicharts.
Okay.
I don't think we've gone into that, and this is a pretty amazing tool in of itself for just managing a lot of stuff. You can just Google in Multicharts their list of built-in data vendors. For traditional markets, they have plenty.
Crypto, not so much.
Crypto, they have a few, and the few they have are Bitfinex, Bittrex, and Poloniex, which are exactly the three you would pick if you put the feature into this in 2017, and not the ones you would pick today. Though that said, for major pairs, the Poloniex charts go back to the beginning of 2014 with minute data, and they actually pull data down reasonably quickly. So it's not a bad general. That one has more you think.
Right. So those three exchanges you can immediately load up with live data. However, for Binance and BitMEX, you need to manually import the ASCII files, which we will now show you how to do. And those ASCII files you should have downloaded from the relevant resource on Shark Charts.
Yeah, we'll just put a link up. We'll pull it from Google Drive. It's a few gigabytes, so it'll take you 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, which is a lot less time than the 1 week it took me to download it.
It should look like this. So, okay, how do I import a data set?
So if you go to File, Map ASCII in the Quote Manager.
You have to hit Browse and then go into the ASCII folder and choose.
Yeah. So you've cheated a bit because you've already set this up. Mm-hmm. But the way it is set up to do this is that you set the path to the folder with the just .tx or the .csv files that have the appropriate fields.
Right. So I haven't imported BitMEX data yet, so we're going to do that. All right. So ASCII BitMEX is over here, and they are listed like so. I'm going to click on the folder that has those CSV files and hit OK. It'll then populate the list. On category, you want to go into this one, click cryptocurrencies, and then hit Control-C on your keyboard. Hold down Shift and click the one on the bottom, and hit Control-V. Then for exchange, I believe you have to manually put in your own exchange. Kat, help me out with that one.
Yeah. So you do actually have to add the exchange to the list of exchanges. And the easiest way to do that is to go to Tools, Exchanges and ECNs. And I would suggest going down to Poloniex and clicking the clone button.
I'm going to hit the P.
And then changing the name to BitMEX.
Excellent.
And
so
the reason to clone it is because this way all the sessions will be correct. Normally, for each exchange, it has the sessions that it's actually trading. For cryptocurrency, 24 hours, but it still splits that as 0 to 0 each day. And rather than having to finick with it yourself, you can just clone an other cryptocurrency exchange and get all that done for you. So once you've done that and you've now added BitMEX to your list of exchanges, when you go to Map ASCII and then go to the drop-down list of exchanges, BitMEX will be in it.
Okay, then Command-C, Shift-click, Command-V. And same for category, we want crypto, Control-C, Shift-click, Control-V.
And then you click OK. And because after just a ridiculous amount of frustrating effort and fighting with the thing to figure out all the quirks of how it prefers to have stuff formatted so that it will actually just correctly identify all the fields the first time, it will just work. And I don't think anybody would be willing to use it. But I've got it to a point where it just works.
Yeah, you put a honorable amount of work into actually making this viable. So to import these charts, you want to click on Data Source, ASCII Mapping, and then go over to Cryptocurrencies and sort by exchange, or
just
search it,
XBT USD.
Hit OK. So you'll notice that, why are we establishing a connection?
That's what it says no matter what it's loading.
Up for the first time.
It's a general loading phrasing.
It's an offline data set, but it still says it. It's weird.
Yeah. And it will take a little bit of time to do it. Ask for something large, and especially if you ask for something other than 1 minute, which is the default data set. So it actually has to go in and figure out what all the different bars should be. With the ASCII mapping feature, it's designed to let anybody who wants to put in any data set into just be able to have a way to do it. And because of that, it's a little bit finicky and very literal in that it needs to literally read exactly something in a certain format to interpret it.
Yeah, just meaning you have to do a lot of formatting.
Yeah. And it doesn't import everything into the charts database. It just keeps it as the ASCII files, and we'll read them every time that you ask for a chart.
And speaking of which, currently this is only loading up to December 5th, which means we need to run a Python script in that folder, which will update the data for us to the current bar.
Yep.
So,
and we should point out at this stage that I'm also going to have in that folder a PowerPoint presentation that just step by step with arrows what you where, for people to figure out how to do this, with the assumption that they have no coding experience and computers are scary. Because there will be plenty of you out there who are much better at volatility theory than you are ever looking at code. And I assume that some of the steps you have to do, if you've never done them, you wouldn't do unless you literally had someone point out what you needed to where.
Right.
So we have I walked EdgeStark through the first version of that, and I'll make some final version, and I think it will be good.
Yeah, currently there's a PDF to explain how to do it in the folder. After you correctly install Python and the correct directories, is that the right word? All you have to do is double click on the pathway called BitMEX Data Gatherer, 1 minute only. And then it will run this script. Don't close the window. As soon as it's finished, which will tell you. Wow, that was fast. All you have to do is reload your chart, and you should be golden.
And I will say that I haven't seriously explored it yet. Supposedly, this can update in real time from an ASCII file if there are certain finicky rules to how often you have to update it. And if I get that working, I'll be sure to release it.
That should have worked, right? Still on the 4th.
Did you should change the time frame or something?
Okay.
Reload the window. so if it's not doesn't actually have a reason to change the data.
Ah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's efficient of the software. 2 hour chart. Nope. You run the Python script bitmix data gather or one of the other options?
Did you do the end of day or the daily or the minute?
Minute.
Should work. Let me pull something up on my end. Assuming all of the files are where everything it expects it to be, and nothing got moved.
Curious.
Yeah, so
Because we updated the Binance charts at the beginning.
mine is currently on the 21st, and okay, so
Yeah, it didn't run the script, I don't think. Because I'm downloading the Binance ones now and it's going through them one by one. But it didn't do that for BitMEX.
on my end it looks like it did it until the end of day in Bitmax. It actually did.
Yeah, it doesn't run it. Only for the Binance it runs it.
So mine's correct for when I did this before I started the stream with you. I have to figure out exactly what. So if you clicked on the BitMEX one this one that says BitMEX data getter, it'll go through the ones first.
Okay.
So it may have updated at the end of the day. Yet.
Okay. It's actually running it now. That's really weird to why it didn't do that.
Yeah, I think because it went quickly, I think you.
Oh, this is the Binance one. Hold on.
Yeah.
Next.
So what it'll go through, I've got it set up to go through all the end of day ones before it goes through the minutes because the end of day they're faster.
That's really bizarre. Because it's working now. It's loading XBTC USD 1 minute started. Huh.
Yeah, I think you click the general one. Fast line. That was probably that it was going through end of day data first.
Okay. So which one do you click first when first loading this cat?
Well, I mean, I generally click the one that does both and updates both of my data sets.
Cool. So just
for the purposes of getting 1 minute data, clicking on the 1 minute one will get you immediately to 1 minute data.
Okay. There is no indication that it's downloading anything.
It's possible that there's another Python package that I've left out somewhere in the instructions. It's good to figure this. I mean, we also may need to redo this video at some point.
Yeah, we will do
that.
And
regardless, there will be an actual PDF with detailed instructions, and it will be correct by the time we publish this in the next few days.
So, Kat, the Python's fine because I just clicked the Binance one again, and it's updating all my data correctly. It's only the bitmex Python updater that's not working.
Okay, so there's probably a package, a Python package that I forgot to list that's relevant to that script. Okay, I'll figure that out after the stream.
Okay. What else would you like to go over, Cap?
Well, that's basically the long and the short of it. Let's load up a Binance. Just load up BTC USDT.
Okay. Binance chart. Cool. So BTC, DT. Let's do it. All right. What are we slapping on this bad boy?
Literally anything, because it will all work. Just like it, yeah.
All right.
It'll work quickly because it's multi-charts.
All right. We're gonna do ACAT. We're gonna do 3D Wave PM. And let's just do my standard chart layout. Let's get a Wave PM on there as well. And I'm gonna change the max period to 1,000 because I'm not gonna use those higher periods. Or let's do 800. Why not? And then switch our good friend ACAT over here to 800 as well. Beautiful. All right. If you guys want any TA questions done, now would be the time to ask. I'll gladly look at any chart you want me to. However, it's possible I would need to run the Binance data updater list for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so to get through weirder ones, so you can go into the notepad file with the list of Binance symbols and put whatever you want to load at the top, but it will take a while to update all the way back from the 5th compared to just looking at it immediately.
Right.
But
you'd be downloading every single 1 minute bar on Binance, essentially.
Every one that you don't have. But you can also just change that text file. You could also only have the stuff that you frequently look at in that text file. Just store the rest of the list someplace else and add extract as needed. But it works, and you can look at any Binance pair with this by just importing the ASCII data.
Yeah. Hey, Kat, quick question on this chart. Oh, it's because we're registering this as a completed meter version with a new longest over expanded period on this. So I'm going to uncheck the box for counting mean versions as completed when the mean is hit. How do I do that, Kat?
You change it to false.
Okay. What's the variable called? There's a lot of variables. Reset lock spawn cross. False. Okay.
You want to turn the other one to true if you haven't.
Oh, yeah, because it's going to keep it on forever. That's funny. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we're reading the locksp as... I can actually do it with the period tracker. But
you can also just go into the corner and read it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I initially did, but I didn't assume. Okay, cool. Yeah, we are reading that off of the volatility overhead and not the actual period. I'm going to do it manually. So we are at 358. Going to pop in a copy of Multicharts Meow Mix. Let's do it. And we're just going to change SMA length to 58. All right. Make it so. And then we're just going to hide a cat real quick. Beautiful. I put in the wrong value, didn't I? Okay. What I meant to do was put in 180. I just realized I put in the same incorrect reading a second time. 180. We're good. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to set the secondary period to 18, so at least I get the... Well, and I can keep ACAT on for the compressionary range, so... I guess I'll look at those separately. And we're going to set SMA2 to 18. Snazzy. All right, that's catching the swing highs and swing lows pretty well. We currently don't have implied direction, because we are in a compressionary range. And there is a small amount of converse expansion happening as well, because you have the secondary plume. Okay. So this upward move here isn't messing with the locks at all, which is at least nice. But if we went on a lower time frame, we could actually look at the new... Okay. Yeah, let's go to the 15-minute chart, because then we can read a new Lux reading for the upward move and the bearish mean reversion, because we're technically in a bullish mean reversion from the downward trend previously, and then we want to see what the bearish mean reversion on the shorter TF is. You agree with that, Kat?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out which library you might be missing. So I think I listed them all in the PDF, but I also don't have a clear enough feed from your screen to actually read anything you're doing. So if you missed one, I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I have to
yeah. We can take care of that after the stream.
Cool. Let's do 1,000. Okay, cool. Yeah, the bullish mean or the bearish mean reversion is already completed, and there is potential energy for new trend. There was a small amount of bearish expansion. There is no volatility overhead to stop it, but the compression range already completed from that move. And the longer compression range is holding true as well. Okay. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Satisfied in the sense that I don't have a true reading on direction just yet. Compression range looks fine and is holding decently. But there is no Lux compression range to hold price in place. Because this expansion is long past compressed. Yeah, there's really no consistent trades we can take right now. At least on the 1 hour and 15 minute. Let's go ahead and try the 4 hour, yeah? Hours, please. Okay. Yeah, and the bullish mean reversion from 4 hour chart is still active. That's pretty simple. Or Loxbus 200. 200 period is below 0.4. So that could very well go wherever it wants. And that mean reversion has completed. Potential energy isn't high though. So there's the bearish expansion there, but it was rejected with the bullish mean reversion on the lower time frame, which completed the bullish mean reversion on the 4 hour chart. Fascinating. So there isn't that much potential energy because of the previous spike, both the downside and the upside, right? That converse volatility does reduce potential energy for longer term trends. If I had to bet on something, I would say sideways, but even then you can't actually bet on that. other than by defining ranges on lower time frames, and ranges on the lower time frames are currently too wide to take valid positions in either direction. So I'm going to sit this out for a bit. I don't do that often, but because we have both a tight range but a large technical compressionary boundary, I can't use the metrics I usually use to take longs or shorts to define the range. And then even if I could, we are too compressed on the shorter time frames to take positions in either direction. Ugh, yeah, it's a messy chart. I don't want to trade this. That's too bad. All right, let's see if anybody has any questions. Nope. All right, Kat, anything final you'd like to add to this live stream?
No, I think we've gone through an overview of the package. I guess I should say that pricing on this is going to be same as the deluxe for TradingView indicators, since it covers the same utility and a bit more. And then we'll offer them as a package deal. One you get one, you get the other at half the price that you normally would. I probably will also it will probably also grandfather in part or probably half the discount for those who have existing full plus experimental subscriptions. You have to work out the exact details. Subscribing, we're going to have to work with you individually to figure out what your prorated amount you actually on your current subscription is, so that we charge you not for any more than you're actually getting. So that'll be person by person. But our basic plan is to offer this in parallel to the TradingView indicators. To a large extent, we're constrained in TradingView further based on the limitations of PineScript. And when they expand PineScript with whatever is in the next version, which I assume will have some well-needed features since they've done everything else at this point, like just something like arrays, like just please TradingView. I'll be able to bring everything that I've learned from Multicharts, hopefully, to TradingView as it actually becomes possible. So, but Multicharts goes substantially further than TradingView is going to. I use my own computer, and the limitation is how fast your computer can actually do math. And as it turns out, for this volatility stuff at high resolution, it is a constraining variable, which is, I would argue, probably why it works. A lot of what you're catching is what high frequency player, at least at shorter time frames, what high frequency traders are probably looking at too. But because they have to, they may be more efficient than I am, but they have to be very fast. So they've got a trade-off that I don't have.
The bottleneck of computational intensity is what makes this edge an edge.
Yeah, I don't know how long this will work into the future. I suspect someday I'll just keep rolling with the punches and evolve even faster. But for now, I've been very impressed with everything we've come up with, because it's done stuff I didn't expect I'd ever be able to do. And it helps a lot to be able to do it quickly and with high resolution, which I can do with my can't currently do with trading. So we'll have details in the next few days to actually order the indicators, the updated pricing structure, everything on the website. Basic plan is to get everything put together a bow on it by Christmas Day.
Beautiful. Well, Kat, we've come a long way, and we're happy to share these new tools with our community. If you folks have any questions about these indicators, feel free to hop in our Discord channel and shoot either of us a message. It has been a pleasure, and we will see you all. Oh, I'm actually going on a short vacation until the 29th. I'll still have access to a computer, so I will be releasing regular calls and streams, but production quality will be slightly lower than usual until I get back.
I see. Oh, there's one other thing that compared to TradingView, the permissions are so much better in Multicharts, and one of the things that does include is the ability to put free trials built into it. So we have to figure out exactly what we want to do with that. It'll be either 3 or 7 days when Dad Shark and I hash out what makes the most sense. But the way it works is from the point you install the, it'll have a certain amount of days on the trial, and after that, it'll start asking you for. So we can actually do that with Multichart, and we can't do that with TradingView because even though around this time last year they made permission scripts highest tier feature, and they said they'd add better management tools. They have yet to do so. Not bitter, just very bitter.
Beautiful. On that joyous and festive note, we will be on our way to enjoy the holidays, and we encourage you to do the same. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys. Thank you.